Today we are going to discuss about a logging framework named Log4j. Log4j. Okay, this Log4j is a logging framework. Log4j is a logging framework. Before discussing what Log4j will do, first we need to discuss what is logging. What is logging? Okay, just logging is something like recording the events and the actions that occur in the application. Logging is recording the events and the actions and the information of an application. At the time of execution. At the time of execution. At the time of execution. Let's consider, we have a simple example. Where is the Eclipse software? Where do you have? Just in day-to-day applications, okay, the same application will be used by multiple users. Okay, let's consider like we have a banking application. The banking application can be used by multiple users to perform the transactions. So at what time, so let's consider like we have three users, X, Y and Z. Okay, the Log4j will be used to log or will be used to record the actions or the transactions or the data or the events that are being performed in the application. Let's consider like we have an online banking application where the data, let's consider like the users will log in first and then the users may perform any of the transactions, like they may go for online transaction like fund transfer, or they may register the payees, or they may delete the payees, existing payees, like that. There might be a number of workflows or there might be a number of actions that the user can perform. And all these events, actions, data, transactions, everything will be recorded in some media, like it might be console, it might be file system, or it might be database. Why we should log the information? Why we need to log the information means for the audit purpose. Let's consider like after 30 days, I need to see, are there any exceptions or are there any problems while executing the transactions? Okay, or after 30 days I need to see the load of the transactions, like what are the transactions that occurred between this time and that time, and what are the actions that are performed by this user. Let's consider like the user will, what the user will tell? The user will tell that I did not make any transaction, but some 3000 amount is deducted from my account. But in order to verify that whether the user has performed that action or not, you will verify the logs. Yeah, the user has logged in at this time into the application, and at this time he has clicked on this button, at this time he has performed this action, at this time he has added the payee. Like that, between the specific time we'll see the logs and we'll verify whether the user has performed that action or not. So to record the kind of information, any action, any transaction, any information or any event will be recorded into some media. That media can be a file system or a database or console or anything, recording some information of the application, recording the information about, or recording the information of the actions or events or transactions, okay, or any information, recording any information, okay, when the application is being executed is called as logging. Okay, and in order to perform this logging, we have some basic code in Java itself. Now let me go for a new package in Eclipse, sorry, a new project. Let me close all the files existing. Now let me go for now let me try to create a new project. And let me create a main method. And Log4j app, let me create a package. com.hu log4j demo, and let me create a class. Sorry, class name is log4j demo, and the class is being created, and let me go for okay. Now let's consider like the user has logged into the application and the username that the user has entered is, let's consider like this is entered, I am hard coding it here, this is entered by the user, okay. I'm hard coding these values. Let's consider like these are entered by the user, and in order to log some information, or in order to, let's consider like I need to log the information to the console, okay. In order to log the information into the console, okay, the standard way is by using system.out.println. System.out.println, username is so like this I'm recording some information to the console. I'm recording some information so that it will be printed on the console. Okay, and Just what I'm doing is, if the username is Ravindra and password is equal to h123, then I'm logging some information like login is successful. Else, I'm printing some other information. Login is failure. Okay. Yes, this is end of the login use case. So now what I'm doing, using system.out.println, I'm logging the information to the console. It's also doing some recording thing. Okay, it's getting the information from the application and it is printing the information to the console. Something like we are recording the information into the console. Okay, just let me execute the application. So username is something, password is something, and login is successful, and something, end of the login use case. Okay, then already system.out.println is there. Okay, which is used to print the information into some media like console, or can we use system.out.println to print the information to the file system? Can we use system.out.println to print the information to the file system? Yes or no? Can we use system.out.println to print the information to the file system? Yes or no? Yes, we can do that. Okay, how we can do that means, there is an object named print stream. In java.io package, we have a class named print stream. Okay, just we'll give the file name. Let's consider like hello.txt, and we'll give this to method set out. There is a class named system in java.lang package, and in the system class we have a method system.setOut. It will throw a final point exception. Let me throw file not found exception. This file not found exception is a class in java.io package. Just I have thrown this file not found exception just because the constructor of print stream will raise a checked exception, file not found exception. So just using system.setOut, we can set a print stream which contains a file. Okay, by this way we can set the system.out.println content to a external file system rather than default console. By default, the system.out.println content will be printed to the console only. But if you want to redirect that to a file system, we can do that by using the setout method of the system class. System.setout will take a print stream object. Print stream is a class in java.io package. Print stream is a class in java.io package. Okay, and system.setout method will take a print stream object. Okay, the print stream constructor will take the file name, or the print stream constructor will take the path of the file, to which file we need to send this information. And just I have given hello.txt, so that in the current location it will create a file hello.txt and it will write into that file. Now let me execute this application so that you can write. So I have executed this application. So now the information is not logged in the console, just because we have set the output stream to the file, not the console. By default, the content of system.out.println will be printed to the console, but now it is printed to the file system. Okay, how we can redirect the system.out.println to a file system means, first create a print stream object on top of a file, okay, where we give the path of the file. If you want to go for some Now it will be created like this. I am going for e files hello.txt. So if I execute this application, okay, that file doesn't exist. Let me go for some existing file. This is a read-only file, so this is a problem. So I have deleted the file. I will re-execute the application. Okay, if you see here, hello.txt is created, and if I open the file, this is the content that we sent through system.out.println is sent to e files hello.txt, just because we have given that path in the print stream. So whatever the file might be, the file path should be given as a string, and we need to construct the print stream object, and that print stream object should be sent to system.setout method. System.setout method will take a print stream object. By default, the print stream object of system.out will point to the console. But if you want to modify that, just go for a print stream object with an external file system. Understood? This is how we can redirect the content of system.out.println to a file system. So it's redirected to a file system. Now, if you want to log this information both to the file system as well as console, if you want to log the information both to the file system as well as to the console, file system, console and database. That means if we have multiple media to log the information, or if you want to log the information to multiple media, then system.out.println cannot give you a perfect way to do that. Okay, that is one of the major disadvantages of system.out.println. We can print only to one media, either to file system or console. But if you want to print, or if you want to print the log information to multiple media, we cannot do that using system.out.println. If you want to log the information to multiple media, like the console, the file system, the database, then system.out.println will not give you a better approach, or will not give a better way to do that. So that's the first disadvantage. The second disadvantage is, okay, in multi-threaded applications, system.out.println has been proved very costly in terms of performance. And the third disadvantage is all the system.out.println statements, all the system.out.println statements will be considered the same. That means either we can give system.out.println or we can remove the system.out.println. But we cannot filter, or we cannot give a flag that print the system.out.println or avoid the system.out.println. Let's consider, like, if you want to print something, then we give system.out.println something. Okay, do we do that code at the time of compilation or at the time of execution? If you use system.out.println, whatever the information that we print to the console or the file system, the information will be generated at the time of compilation itself. That means before first we create system.out.println like this. So we create system.out.println and we compile, then we execute. That means before compilation itself, we are giving the information, like this is the information that we need to send to the file system. Let's consider that I don't want to send any information, this is my code. Okay, if I don't want to send any information to the file system or console, then what I need to do? I need to comment out all the system.out.println. There is no way. So there is no way. I need to comment out all the system.out.println. Let's consider like there is some 10,000 lines of code and there are 1,000 system.out.println. What you need to do? If you don't want to send any information to the console of the file system, or you don't want to send any logging information to the console or file system, then you should comment out all the system.out.println. That means you should comment out all the system.out.println. You need to compile and re-execute the application. Then only the changes will be reflected. But there is no mechanism to filter out or to avoid the logging using system.out.println at the runtime. If you want to avoid the logging using system.out.println, then we should comment out the system.out.println, we should recompile, re-execute the application. But okay, there is no way to filter or to avoid. There is no way to filter or to avoid the logging using system.out.println at the runtime. Or there is no way to control the logging of system.out.println at the runtime. That's one more disadvantage. Okay, at the compilation itself, if you want to log the information, then you will put system.out.println. If you want to remove the logging, then we should remove the system.out.println and we should recompile and re-execute the application. That's the only way. But we cannot control or we cannot filter or we cannot avoid the logging using system.out.println at the runtime. We cannot control or we cannot avoid or we cannot filter the system.out.println at the runtime. Understood my point? We cannot restrict or we cannot avoid or we cannot control or we cannot filter the logging using system.out.println at the runtime. If you want to make any changes, we should comment out or we should add the system.out.println and we should recompile and re-execute. That's the only way. But at the runtime, we cannot control them. If they exist while compiling, they'll exist while execution. But if they exist while compilation, but if you want to restrict them at the runtime, we cannot do that. Understood? And all the system.out.println statements fall under the same category. We cannot group system.out.println. All the system.out.println statements will fall under the same category. We cannot group them. We cannot group system.out.println into multiple levels. All of them fall under the same category. All the system.out.println fall under the same category. We cannot group them into multiple levels. Okay? To avoid all these problems, with the basic logging system.out.println, we use some third-party logging frameworks like Log4j. There are many logging frameworks in the market, but the best 98% used logging framework is Log4j. The best logging framework available in the market is Log4j. What log4j will do? What log4j will provide on top of system.out.println? We can log the information to the file system or console using system.out.println. But what log4j will provide on top of system.out.println means log4j will provide all the disadvantages that we have listed now. What are the disadvantages that we have listed now? What is the first one? What's the first one? Multiple media. So, if we use system.out.println, either we can send the information to file system or to console. But if you use log4j, we can send the logging information to multiple media at the same time. That's the first advantage. Okay. What's the second disadvantage of system.out.println? Applications. And log4j has proved to be the best performer in multi-threaded applications. It is already proved to be the best performer in multi-threaded applications. Then what is the third disadvantage? We cannot filter them. We cannot restrict, or we cannot filter, or we cannot avoid the system.out.println at the runtime. But we can restrict. We can restrict as well as we can filter, as well as we can avoid the log4j statements at the runtime. By setting some parameters, we can either avoid or restrict or filter the logging statements. By setting some parameters, we can restrict or avoid or filter the logging statements at the runtime using log4j. Next, what's the next disadvantage? We cannot group multiple logging statements. But in case of log4j, we can group the logging statements into multiple levels. We can group the logging statements into multiple levels. There are multiple levels in logging that we'll discuss as we go on. And another advantage using log4j is we can format the logging information. We can format the logging information at the runtime. We can format the logging information at the runtime, how it should look. We can format the logging information at the runtime using log4j. System.out.println will be in only a specific format. We cannot change the default format of system.out.println. But using log4j, we can change or we can alter the format that is logged into the file system or the console or any media. Okay, at the runtime. At the runtime, we can change the format, how it is displayed in the file or how it is displayed in the console. Okay? Understood? And log4j is not specific to Java applications. It's generic. Like it can be integrated with any of the applications, like PHP or .NET or C++. It's not specific to Java. It can be integrated even with other technologies also. Log4j is not specific to Java. It can be integrated even with other technologies. Understood? Now, if you want to make use of the log4j, first you need to download a file, a jar file. It's a log4j is a third-party framework, so we should download the file first. I think already some file is being downloaded. Let me see. This is the jar file. Okay, log4j2. Let me extract this. So this is jar file, and this contains all the entities that are related to log4j. There will be several entities that are related to log4j. We'll discuss one by one what the specific entities will do. Okay, and log4j is not a licensed framework; it's a open source. It's a open source. Log4j is a open source. This Log4j is developed by Apache Software Foundation. Log4j is developed by Apache Software Foundation. Apache is an open source community. Okay. Yes, they have developed Log4j. Even Tomcat is being developed by Apache. Okay, what do we need to do is, if you are using Eclipse, okay, if you are using Eclipse, directly we will update the build path. Okay, already we have discussed Eclipse. Okay, the build path in Eclipse is nothing but the class path in a general application. Okay, let's consider like if you are using command prompt to execute applications, or command prompt to compile or execute applications, we'll copy this jar file and we update the path. Properties, advanced system settings, environmental variables. In the class path, just we'll add the log4j. Okay, all of you know about class path, right? Okay, so we update the log4j.jar file in the class path if we are using external command prompt. Okay, but if we are using Eclipse, then we should update that in the build path. How we can update the third-party jar files in the Eclipse build path means right click on the project. Okay, go for properties. Okay, there is the third option, Java build path. Okay, in the Java build path, go for libraries. Okay, there is a option add external jars. Go for the location where it is. Okay, just include that. Okay, refresh that. So that it will be available. Just let me come once again. Right click on the project, properties. Okay, just go for Java build path. If you click on Java build path, it will come, and go for the libraries tab. In the libraries tab, go for add external jars. Pick up the jar file. Open. That's it. It will be updated in that. The build path for Eclipse project is nothing but the class path. Okay. Now this jar file, this third-party jar files, the third-party jar file will be available to this project, to this Eclipse project. The third-party jar file will be available to this Eclipse project. Okay. Now we can use this log4j framework in our application. Now I'll replace all the system.out.println with log4j generated logging mechanism. Now, in order to make use of Log4j, first we need to learn what are the different components available in the Log4j. We need to learn what are the different components available in the Log4j. Basically, the Log4j contains three types of components. One is loggers, appenders, layouts. The Log4j contains three basic components: the logger, the appender, and the layout. What the logger will do? Okay, the logger will be used to categorize as well as to pass the message to the media. Loggers will be used to categorize as well as to pass the message, to pass the logging message to the media. The media might be a console or a file system or a database or anything. What logger will do means, the logger will categorize as well as it will pass the message to the specific media that we have configured. Okay? And what appender will do is, appender is used to configure the media to which we need to log the information. Appenders are used to configure the media to which we log the information. Appenders are used to configure the media to which we log the information. And layouts are used to format the messages. Layouts are used to format the logging messages. Understood? We have a logger, appender, and layout. Now, let me create a simple logger. Now, in general, for a specific class, logger will be created only once. Logger will be created only once for a class. Okay? So, we make it in the class level. So, if you want to make it only one for a class, what is the access modifier that we use? If you want to make it only one per a class, what is the access modifier? Static. If you make something static, then it will be only one per a class. If you make it non-static attribute, then it will be one for a object. But so we go for a static attribute of type logger. Just we make it private so that it will be restricted only to this class. Okay, first we have created a private attribute whose name is log and the type is logger. The base object in Log4j framework is the logger, and this logger is a abstract class. Logger is a abstract class. That's why we are using a method to create the object, and it is internally using a anonymous inner class. Logger is an abstract class. Logger is a abstract class, and it is there in org.apache.log4j package. org.apache.log4j package. Logger is a abstract class that exists in org.apache.log4j package. Logger, it's an abstract class that exists in org.apache.log4j package. First, what we do is we create a static logger object which points to the current class. So, how we can give that it points to the current class means just we give the name of the current class dot class. Okay. Now all the log statements that we create using this log reference will be related to the current class. Understood? Understood? All the log statements that we create using, all the log messages that we create using log reference will be related to the current class. Now let me replace them with log statements. Now once the logger is created, then we send some logging messages to some media, and the default media is the console. The default media for Log4j framework is the console. So whatever the information that we log using Log4j, by default will go to the console. Okay, understood? Now the next thing, in order to send some information, okay, to the log, just we execute log dot some methods. We have several methods in Log4j, like trace, like how we can tell is this Log4j, the messages that we send to a media using Log4j, the messages that we send to media using Log4j can be categorized into multiple levels. The messages that we send to a media using Log4j can be categorized into multiple levels. And what are the available levels? What are the available levels in Log4j? Means we have different levels like trace, info. These are multiple levels in Log4j. Trace, info, debug, var, error, fatal, and on top of another level is all. These are the levels that exist in Log4j. Just I have written it separately just because it's a little bit different, but just write all these levels in logging: trace, info, debug, warn, error, fatal. These are the levels in log4j. And we can tell them as different categories of logging messages. Logging messages can be categorized into multiple levels. Let's consider like we have 1000 logging statements or 1000 logging messages. Out of them, only 5 might be error statements, 10 might be debug, 100 might be info, the remaining might be trace. So we can categorize the logging statements as per their severity, as per their level. These levels are there in the ascending order of the severity of the statements. If it is fatal means it's very severe. That information that is caused is very severe. Okay, very severe errors will be logged using fatal. Error means yes, it is a normal error. Warn means it will not break the application, but still it is a problem. Like that. Debug means if you want to debug anything, we use debug level. Info means just we are giving the information that might be used or not. Okay. Trace means just we are tracing the information. Okay. It will not be useful, but for the future purpose we are tracing the information. Like that. Each and every level will be used to categorize the messages, as well as it will sort out the severity of the statements. The levels in log4j will be categorized as per the severity of the statements, or the severity of effect of the statements. Okay, the log4j levels are categorized as per the severity of the statements. Trace means we are using this statement to trace something. It may be or may not be used in the future. We are just tracing. Let's consider like there is a variable I. At one point the value is 10, at one point it is 100, at one point it is 500. It might be or might not be useful in the future, but I am tracing them. Okay, and the next level info. Okay, I am putting some log statements so that it will give some information if required. Debug. I'll use this information. Okay, this debug will be used to debug the application. Let's consider like at one point after 30 days, if I want to sort out what are the problems in the application, then I'll open all the debug statements and I'll verify the flows. Like if I go in this flow, what occurred? If I go in this flow, what occurred? There might be, if we go for an application, there might be a number of flows that we can achieve some task. Let's consider like there is application, the user has logged into the application. The user first has registered the payee, and then the user has added the payee, then registered the payee, and the user has performed some transaction. Let's consider like the user has registered the payee, and the user then he can delete the payee without performing any transaction. So what happens in this flow? What happens in that flow? That kind of debugging information will be kept using debug level. Okay, all these called as categories or levels in log4j. Based on the severity, we keep them in different levels. Then warn. Why use warn means in order to represent some errors which are not that much harmful, we use warn. Error means we use this error level to represent some information about errors that are really harmful. Fatal means it is highly harmful. The errors that are highly harmful means fatal. So each and every log4j level has a specific meaning and it will be used for a specific purpose. Let's consider like the user has successfully logged in. Let's consider like the user Ravindra has successfully logged in. What is the type? What is the type that we use among these types? Let's consider like the login message is the user Ravindra has successfully logged in. Then what is the level in general that we use? info, or if you want to debug in the future, we use debug, either info or debug based on the requirement. But will we use fatal for that requirement? No. Based on the severity or based on the specific message, we use a specific level of Log4j. That is informational message, like user has logged in. That's just informational message. It need not to be fatal. Let's consider like there is a null pointer exception. That might be error or fatal. Just because that breaks the application. Okay? Let's consider like there is something like the amount available in account is 1000, but we are allowing to transfer 10,000. We are allowing to transfer 10,000 so that some user defined exception is raised. Available amount is 1000, but we are allowing to make a transaction of 10,000, but at some later point some user defined exception arises. It need not to be an error. It is a warning that there is a bug in the application. So we categorize the login messages as per their severity. Okay? Understood? So these are the multiple levels that are present in the application, and this is in the ascending order of the severity. Trace means less severe. Info means disinformational. This is the ascending order of the severity. Okay? This is the ascending order of the levels in Log4j. Okay? And all means all the above levels are applicable. Okay? Understood? Now, for each and every level of Log4j, there is a specific method. So, like this, trace, we have a message. So we have used Log4j to log in the information. Whatever I have done using system.out.println, I am doing the same thing using Log4j. Okay? Understood? Now, I am not using any system.out.println here, just I am using Log4j to log the information, and the default appender is console. Appender means why appender is used? We have three components: the loggers, the appenders, and the layouts. Okay? And we have created a logger using the logger object. This is the logger object. And the default appender for any logger is console. So that any log information that we give using Log4j will go to the console. Okay? And the default layout is a simple layout. That means it is a plain text. The default layout is a simple layout so that it will be a plain text. We get a logger and the default appender, that means the default media is console, and the default layout is simple layout so that it will be a normal text. Understood? Now let me try to execute the application. Now before all these things. There is a class named basic configurer. We need to execute this. If we want to log the information, we should execute this. Okay, and the default level is info. The default level is info. The default layout is simple layout. The default appender is console, and the default level is info. Default level is info. The default level is info. The default appender is a console, and the default layout is a simple layout. Okay, if you want to make use of the Log4j application, then we use basic configurer dot configure. This is a statement, and this basic configurer is also a class in or.apache.log4j framework. Okay, now if I give some statements as well, so if I re-execute the application, see, username is something, password is something, login is successful, and end of the transaction. Okay, and this just the main means main thread, info means it is information message that is being created by this class. Okay, and what is the message? This is a specific, this is a default format. Okay, this is a default format, how it is being displayed. Okay, now this information will be displayed in a console just because the default appender is a console. And just if you want to make use of Log4j, first download the jar file, update in the class path, and create a logger object, and using the logger object execute the specific methods. The default level is info. What is the ascending order? First trace, info, debug, warn, error, pattern. Okay, now if the default level is info, now if I give like debug, now how many statements will be printed? See, earlier how many statements were being printed? 4. Okay, first is username is something, password is something, login successful, end of the login use case. These 4 statements are being printed. Now how many statements will be printed? And the default, I told that the default level is info. If the default level is info, how many statements will be printed here? How many log statements will be printed in the console? Understood my question? I told that the default level is info. If the default level is info, how many log statements? Here, earlier how it was means, all are infos. All the statements are info statements. So, if I execute this, all the statements are printed just because the default level is info. Now what I have done is, I have changed some of the statements to debug statements. Now 3 statements are of debug level, 2 statements are of info level. Understood? Understood? First 2 statements, this log.info, log.info. So that these 2 logging statements are of level info. This is a logging statement which is of level debug. This is a logging statement which is of level debug, and this is a logging statement which is of level debug. Earlier 4 statements are being printed. Now how many statements will be printed in the console? Understood my question? Everybody? Now how many statements will be printed in the console? Just speak out. Whatever you thought, just speak out. If it is correct, I'll appreciate you. Even if it is not correct, I'll appreciate you, but I'll correct you. How many statements will be printed now? 5? Earlier itself it was 4. Now how it will become 5?
Password is not matching. Then it will show under.
No. In any case, only 4 will be executed, right? If the password is matched, then if will be executed. If the password is not matched, else will be executed. In any case, among these statements, only 1 will be executed. Now, what are the number of statements printed here? Now, if this prints even debug statements, how many statements will be printed? If this application prints even debug statements or debug messages, how many statements will be printed? 4. If this application doesn't print debug statements, how many statements will be printed? 2. 2 if only info are printed. 4 if both info and debug are printed. Understood? Now, let me execute the application. Now, how many are printed? Both info and debug. Now, let me make them trace. Just observe the difference. I have made them trace. Okay? Earlier they were debug, now I have made them trace. How many are printed? Only 2. Now, earlier they were trace, now I will make them 1. Are those statements printed? Yes. I told that the default level is info. Now, how we can conclude about the levels? These are the hierarchy of Log4j levels. Then, by the example, how we can, or what's the statement that we tell about the Log4j levels? What do you conclude about Log4j levels? No. I told that the default is info. We can modify the level to anything. We can modify the level so that it can be traced. So that levels also will be printed. From that particular level, all the higher levels will be printed. The default is info. So, from info, all the higher levels will be printed. Info, debug, warn, error and flag. From that particular level, all the higher levels will be printed. Okay? If we say the level is as info, then not only info, all the higher levels to info also will be printed. Let's consider like how we can modify the level of logger means just we can set the level. Okay? Just how we can modify the level means just go for the log and set level. There is a class named level. Level is a class in this out.apache.log4j package. Just observe even the import statements also. Just we have, let me make it debug. Now this is how we can modify the level. Just what I'm doing is I'm setting the level to debug. This level is if you see here, this level, the highlighted level is a class in all.apache.log4j package. Level is a class, so level.debug. This is a final static constant. So that we have many final static constants. Each and every final static constant in this level will represent a specific level. Like level.debug will represent the debug level of log4j. Understood? Okay? So just I am setting the level to debug. Level is level is a class. Okay, here in this level we have final static constants, different final static constants like of, fatal, error, warn, info, debug. All these are final static constants, okay, of type level. Okay, all these are final static constants. Okay, in the level class we have several final static constants. Okay, like of, fatal, error, warn, info. This is a class and these are final static attributes of this class. Okay, understood? So we can use any level. We can use any level. Now I am setting this log4j level to be debug. I am setting the log4j level to be debug. Now let us see. If I execute the application, before configuring, we need to set just a small modification here. Just this is the hierarchy of levels: trace, debug, info, warn, error, fatal. Just please modify this. The hierarchy is trace, debug, info, warn, error, fatal. This is ascending hierarchy of log4j levels. Just please modify that. First trace, debug, info, warn, error, fatal. Okay, so now what is the level? Info. Is info bigger or smaller than debug? As per this hierarchy, info is bigger than debug. So now the first two statements are debug statements. So if I execute this application, are these first two statements printed? No, just because these two are debug, which are lower level than the configured level. The configured level is info. Okay, but this statement is printed just because this statement has a log4j level as warn is higher than info. The specific level or higher level will be printed. Understood? Now just there might be 1,000 statements. Now how many logging statements are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Among those, in any execution, the common statements are 1, 2. Let's consider in this flow, first, second, third and fourth will be printed. There is a possibility of printing first, second, third and fifth. Let's ignore the fourth one. In any execution, in this particular execution, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, these statements will be executed. But among them, how many are logged into the console? This statement will be executed. This statement will be executed. But are those statements logged in the console? Are those statements logged in the console? No. Now, are we filtering the logging messages into the media at the runtime? Yes or no? Yes. There might be 100 statements or 1000 statements. But as per the level, we may filter out only some specific statements to be printed to the media. Now the media is console. Understood? So I am restricting or I am filtering only the specific level to the media. Like only log or only debug or higher level to debug, or only paddle or higher level to paddle. This kind of restrictions can be applied at the runtime if you use log4j. Understood? So that specific level or even higher level can be logged into the logging media. Okay? See, if we give one, the level, if we set the level as 1, and if we make it info, and how many statements will be printed? How many statements will be printed? 2. Okay, this statement and this statement will be printed just because these two are of type info, which is less than 1. So only these two statements are being printed. Understood? Now if you want to note it down, you can note it down, just because this is a basic example and we'll be modifying this example very frequently. When you want to note it down, you can note it down. Just please note down even the import statements also. This is not required. This is not required. Just please note down even the import statements also, so that it will be useful for you. These system.out.println, these are not required. Was it over? No. Okay. Like you can write down the many things later on. Okay. Now the default level is, we told, as we discussed, it is info. Default level is info. And the default appender is console. Okay. And how we can alter the log4j level means, just to the log object execute set level method using level.1 or level.info or level. Something. We can set alter the level. Now, how we can alter the media? Like how we can alter the appender from console to something else? The default appender is console. Okay, which is being represented by a class console appender or .apache.log4j.console appender. But it is a default, we need not to set. And the file system can be represented by using a appender named file appender. File system will be represented by using a appender named file appender. Okay, so if you want to set the appender to another, the default appender is a console appender. Okay, the default appender is console appender. For logger, the default appender is console appender, which is represented by a class or .apache.log4j.console appender. Okay, this is the default. Let's consider, like, if you want to send the logging messages to a file system, then we should use the appender file appender. Okay, we should use the appender file appender. Okay, so now first we will create an appender. And all the appenders are subclasses to interface named appender. Appender is an interface and All the appenders are subclasses to appender interface. One of the appenders is file appender, and we have several appenders like console appender and all. Okay? And to create an appender object, we should have a layout object. To create an appender, we should have a layout. And what we discussed about the layout? What the layout will do? Layout will give you the format how the output should be. How the output should be in the media. And let me go for a simple layout. And what is the file name? The file can be in any extension like text file or a Word file or any file. But the standard file format for logging files is .log. The standard extension for logging files is .log. And this will throw a checked exception, IO exception. The file appender will throw a IO exception just because the file may exist or may not exist. So let me throw a IO exception. So we have created an appender which is of type file appender, and this appender is being created on top of a layout and a log file. The log can be sent to any file, text file or what we call Word file or any file. But the standard file format for a log file is .log. So we have created appender on top of a simple layout and by sending a file system. And now the log will be sent to this file system. If we configure this appender, then now the log will be sent to the. Now what we have done? We have set the level as. Let me set the level as info. Now I have set the level as info, and I have set the appender as appender. Now how this appender is being created means it is being created by using a file appender on top of a simple layout, and the log file is hello.log. Understood? Now if we send any information from this application, or if we log any information from this application, it will be logged into a file named hello.log. Understood? Now let me try to execute this application. Now is it logged in the console? Now let me clear the console. There is nothing in the console. So it's not logged in the console. Just because we have set the appender as a appender, and this appender is referring to a file appender which has this file. Now let me see. hello.log file is being created, and this is being logged into this file system. Understood? Okay, this is how it will be. Now let me delete these files. Now this file doesn't exist. Now let me re-execute the application. So this hello.log file will be automatically created. It doesn't exist, so it is logged into this file system. Now if I re-execute this application again, the content will be appended at the end. Okay, we need not to write a separate code to append the content to the end. By default, if it is a file system, then the content will be appended at the end. Understand? So this message will be in a specific format, like Log4j level hyphen the message. Understood? So this is the basic Log4j, like how we can log the information into a specific file system. Understood? Now if you want to write this example, just write these 3 lines. The remaining things will not change. but now we have just changed the media. Earlier it was to the console, now will be to the file system. That's it. And just note down the corresponding. Almost all the classes will be there in, almost all the entities will be there in the same package or .apache.log4j package. File appender, console appender, and appender, all this will be in the same package. And even simple layout, all these are third-party classes. If you have appender, then we should have a layout also. So I have taken the default layout, which is a simple layout. Just the layout tells what is the format of the printed content. Okay. Understood? Now, have you written these lines? Over? Now, we have configured the appender. And are we doing this programmatically, or are we configuring them using some external files? Are we doing, or are we configuring the levels, and are we configuring the levels and appenders in the program, or are we using some external file systems? We are configuring them in the application itself, but configuring the log4j properties in the program or in the application is not an advisable thing. We should not do them in the Java application. In general, we will not do them. In general, we will not configure the log4j properties or the log4j appenders or levels or anything, okay, inside the application. We won't do that inside the application. But how and where we will do that means there are two approaches. Either we use XML files or properties files. There are two options. Either we use XML files or we use properties files. To configure the log4j properties like level, appender, layout, and all these things. All these things will be configured either in properties files or XML files in general. As we don't have any knowledge about XML files, first we'll see how we can configure them in properties files, and later on first we'll discuss about XML files, and after that we'll see how we can configure them in XML files. Already we have seen what is a property file and how we can load information from a properties file. Okay, so first we'll see properties files. The properties files will have extension dot properties. A text file will have extension hello.txt. In the same way, a Word file will have extension hello.doc. In the same way, properties file will have extension hello.properties. Okay, a properties file will have extension .properties. And the properties files will contain key value pairs that are separated by commas. Sorry, key value pairs that are delimited by equal to. A key value properties file will contain a key value pairs separated by equal to. Let's consider like this. a key value pair, name equal to Ravi, appender equal to file appender. The properties files will have key value pairs, and between the key and value will be a equal to. Key equal to value, key 2 equal to value 2, key 3 equal to value 3, like that. Let me write a simple properties file. Okay, in general we will write this in the SRC so that it will be there in the classes, so that it will be there in the class path. If we put in SRC in Eclipse, it will be pasted automatically in the classes. If it is there in the classes means it will be there in the class path. So let me create a file, test dot properties. Okay, but in general we won't keep the name as test.properties. For log4j we will put the name as log4j.properties. In general we put the name as log4j.properties. If it is XML file, then we'll put the name as log4j. This is another convention. If it is a properties file, then we put the file name as log4j.properties. Okay. Now I have created a log4j.properties file, and I will give the values to the properties. First, I will configure. Just to give comments in the log4j.properties file, we'll use hash. This I am giving the appender name. This is the name of the appender. Okay. Now let me give what is the class of the appender? It's a file appender. This is the name of the property, and this is the value of the property. Okay. This is a standard thing. Log4j.appender dot. The appender name can be any name. The appender name can be any name. But this is a standard thing. We should give the same. But the name of the appender can be any name. Name of the appender can be any name. Equal to the value should be. If it is a file appender, then we will give a file appender. Just log4j.appender dot the name of the appender equal to the class of the appender. Now I am supposed to use a file appender, so I am using the class file appender. If I am supposed to use a console appender, then I will use the console appender. Understood? Understood? First, the property. First, I am configuring the appender. Okay. What I am doing is log4j dot appender. The property name is log4j dot appender dot the name of the appender equal to the class of the appender. It's a file appender. Now you have to configure the file appender. What we have? We have a layout and we have the log file name. The same configuration we are doing in the properties file. We are telling that we are going to use a file appender. Here we are telling that we are going to use a file appender. Okay. Now what is the file name? File name, the path of the file will be given like this. Let me delete the existing log file. So I am giving the file name as hc.log. So for this appender, For this appender, the file name is the file path. It's not exactly the file name, it's the path of the file. If you don't give any path, then it will be in the current location. If you don't give any specific path, it will be there in the current location. Okay, so it will be saved in some specific location. So let me give. Anyhow, it will be there in the current location. hcu.log. Now, what is the third thing that we have configured? The layout. So, what is the layout class that we have used? Simple layout. Same thing I am configuring the properties file. So for this appender name I am using the layout as a simple layout. Understood? What Charath understood? Okay, I'll give some time to note it down. Just please observe what we are doing. We are configuring first the appender class with the name of the appender. Using the name of the appender, we are configuring the file of the appender using dot file, and we are configuring the layout to the appender. Now the appender is ready. Now the appender is ready. Now there is a property named root logger equal to, first what we do is we give the level. What is the log4j level? Okay, let me give it debug, comma, the name of the appender. What is the name of the appender that we have given? This is the name of the appender. What we are doing is just I'm mapping the level and appender to log4j. How we can map the level and appender to log4j means using this property log4j dot root logger equal to something. Okay, so now I have configured a simple appender, a simple file appender with a specific file name, and I have set the level as debug. First is the level, comma, the second is the appender. Okay, now let me comment this. Okay, I am not doing anything in the application. Okay, now let me try to execute the application. Is executed. hcu.log is created and the log information is pasted here. How this is being done? Are we doing anything in the application? Just in the application, just we are creating the log object and we are putting some log statements. Sorry, just this is not required. Even setting the level is also not required. Okay. So just we are putting, just what we are doing, we are creating the log object, that's it. Just creation of log object and sending some messages to the logger. The remaining things are being configured in the properties files. Okay, by doing this, what we are doing, we are decoupling the log4j configuration from the logging messages. If everything is being done in the application, it will be tightly coupled so that we cannot divide them. But any application, a perfect application, will be partitioned, will be loosely coupled, so that configuration will be in some files Okay, and the application will be in some other files. Now let's consider like if you want to change something. Okay, let's consider like if I want to change the level from debug to trace. Do I need to recompile the application? Do I need to recompile the application? No, it's not required. Just because if it is in the .java file, then we need to recompile the application. Is it there in the .java file now? Is it there? Is it configured in the .java file now? No, it's configured in the properties file. Since it is configured in the properties files, we need not to recompile the application once again. Just because since it is there in the properties files, okay, just we can change the values in the properties file, then re-execute the application. That's it. It will be reflected. So we can achieve a higher level of decoupling if you use or if you configure the Log4j properties either in properties file or XML files. So it's the best approach. Some applications will use properties files and some applications will use XML files. Either way is okay, using properties files or XML files. Okay, since we don't have knowledge about XML, we are not discussing how to configure Log4j properties or how to configure the Log4j levels or appenders or layouts using XML files. But once we have ample knowledge of XML, how XML will do, and what XML will do, then we will discuss how we can configure the Log4j properties in the XML file. But just this is a properties file which has a key value pair. Okay, how we can configure the Log4j properties in the properties file means the properties file should be named as log4j.properties. That's the first thing. The second thing is it should be there in the class path. Okay, so it should be there in the classes folder. The third thing is, okay, we can configure the loggers using a property named log4j.root logger. Okay, the first property is considered to be what we call level, comma, the appenders. Level, comma, multiple appenders. And if you want to go for some custom appenders, okay, or if you want to configure some appenders in the properties file, just what we do is log4j.appender dot the name of the appender equal to the class of the appender, and log4j.appender dot name of the appender dot if it is a file appender, then we'll give what is the name of what is the path of the file and what is the layout. All those things we have done in the application through a programmatic way, but it's not advisable. We should go for a configuration approach, so that the application, the program and the configuration of Log4j properties will be decoupled, will be at separate places. Understood? So just we have configured the layout, the file system and the appender, and just we have given the appender. Let's consider like I want to give the log message both to the file system as well as what we call console. Then how we can do that? Now what we do is, now we have configured the file appender. In the same way we will configure the console appender. In case of file appender, we'll give console appender. Okay, just will give the layout. Console appender dot layout equal to, for console appender we need not to give the name of the file or the path of the file. Directly it will be a console appender. Now let's consider like if I give console app, then the logging will be done into the console. Logging will be done into the console. Now let me remove this. Let me save this. So there is nothing in the file system now. Now what is the appender that we have configured now? Console. So now if I execute this, no layout set. sorry, layout is simple layout. Okay, so the information is being passed to the console. Now if I want to pass the information to the file system, then I'll give the appender as a file. So that, are we changing anything in the .java file here? We are not changing anything in the .java file. By doing some external configuration, we could be able to achieve the destination, different destinations. So now, if you see here, it's logged into the file system, just because we have changed the configuration. Now, if you want to configure both the file and console, just we separate them by commas. Now, first is definitely first will be considered as the level, and the next onwards it will consider them as what we call appenders. So first is level trace, and then one appender, and then another appender. Now let me remove the content. So there is nothing in the log file, and let me see by executing the application. The console is getting the log messages, as well as the log file is also getting the log messages. Okay, this is how we can configure multiple destinations or multiple media or multiple appenders for the same logging mechanism using a properties file. Understood? Okay, if you want you can note it down, otherwise we will discuss the remaining things in the next class. Okay, the next class we will discuss about like some more appenders, like there are rolling appenders. Okay, we will discuss about them, and then we will start with layouts. Like we have different layouts like HTML layout, pattern layout, and all. How the layouts will work, how the layout will make a difference, how the layout will be used to send the log messages in different patterns. That we'll see. That we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, and it will be completed at maximum half an hour, 45 minutes. After that, we'll start with the basics of XML. Okay, if you want, you can note down the example of the properties file. Otherwise, Sharat, just you please share this properties file, this class, as log file is not. Just please share these two files, log4j demo.java and properties file, so that they can download from Facebook. All of you know about our Facebook site, right? For new members, do you know about our Facebook blog, so that you can download this file from it? Okay.